And so today we're going to do a two-part presentation. I'll be doing the introduction of today, which is about how to heal your multiple sclerosis. And I'll be doing the first part, which will be the mental factors that influence the progression and influence the reversal of symptoms. And Palmer will do the environmental and the physical. So to start, we have to know what is it we're dealing with. And multiple sclerosis is within the disease classifications of chronic disease. Why is this important? First, what is chronic disease? Chronic disease is defined as being something that's non-viral nor infectious. This is according to Medicine.net. It lasts more than 3 months. Sometimes if you just get something and then it goes away, it's not considered chronic. And it can't be cured by medication. So MS is within the arena of like lupus or Hashimoto, all the autoimmune, right? But also chronic are things like heart disease and strokes, which are the cardiovascular diseases, or things like diabetes and Parkinson, or fibromyalgia, pain, chronic pain. So we're in this arena called the chronics. I'm going to skip because so we're going to distinguish it even more. There's like two major groups of diseases. We've got the acute diseases and the chronic. Okay, the acute diseases is something that happens immediate. It's a very short duration, and so what the type of treatment that's taken, and this is from functional medicine, is when you have something acute, you want to go straight into managing that symptom and either reducing it, cutting it out, getting rid of the symptom. It's something quick. It's a very fast treatment process. When it becomes, or when the disease is chronic, you got to move that out of the way and deal with it and look at it as being chronic. Chronic means it's a long duration. Not only are the symptoms of long duration, what got it there is of long duration. Another key factor is you don't want to just focus on the one symptom or the symptoms you feel. When you're dealing with chronic disease, you need to focus on the whole person, the whole environment, both internally and externally. So very different, isn't it? Acute and chronic. That's why it is important that we understand that what we're dealing with is the chronics, okay? And this is from this book. If anybody is very technical, this book is called When the Body Says No. This actually talks about those underlining causes, and this is the area I'm going to be talking about, which is the mental, the mental, the personality, the life events. So this, his name is Gabor Mate. He's a doctor in Canada. So he talks a lot about, he calls it the psychosocial factors of disease. So it's all the, what happens in your life, what are your beliefs, and I'll be getting into that. But one of his wonderful quotes that he says, and we have to take into account, is that cancer, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and other conditions we examined are not abrupt new developments that happen in your adult life. They are a culmination of lifelong processes. So we need to look back a lot further back if we want to heal them. Okay? If someone's having a heart attack, do we want to review their life? No. They just broke an arm. Do we want to talk about what, their favorite whatever is or what they eat? No. It's a quick symptom management, immediate care. Now, when it comes to chronic disease, where we need to put our focus is focusing on the root causes. What's also called the root factors that are in the multiple sclerosis. There'll be two parts: physiological, physical, environmental, which Palmer will be talking about, such as, these are just a few examples, she's going to get into details: food, toxins, gut health, lifestyle. And the second factors And there's discussions if it's 50-50 or what is the rationale, but they're both important. The other factors, which would be what I'll be talking about, and what I do in my own work, is what's called the psychosocial. These are what? These are traumas, traumatic events. A lot of the people I've worked with could be 6 months to 2 years before their first symptoms. There was a very traumatic event, like the death of someone in the family, a divorce, a major change in their life, getting fired, almost getting fired, feeling like they were going to get fired. So that was a major overload. And then the more subtle ones that we don't understand and we don't feel them so much because they've been there for so long is called the little T's, the little traumas. The having been ignored when you were a kid, so feeling like you're not worthy. Little things, or feeling like you need to help everybody else or else you'll never be loved. All these little bitty things that are results of small little traumas. Okay? They also another name for it is adverse childhood experiences. Okay? Emotional repression. Actually, really, emotional repression will really create havoc in the immune system. And Gabor Mate mentions it in the book. But who's been told crying is for babies, right? Or, oh, just give her 2 weeks and she'll be over it, right? We're supposed to swallow certain things. Those things will create havoc in the immune system if grief is not resolved, for example, or you're eating yourself because of shame or something, and you don't complete the process of letting it go. And then insecure attachment styles. What does that mean? Codependence. Or I'm here because I have to, I can't let this go, I can't talk to him, all these different ways that we relate that sometimes, most of us as children, we don't really learn very well. 3 years old, you're not supposed to be an expert at this. And so we gain these ways of relating to people that our bodies are saying, I don't feel that you're in control. So those are the bits that I'll be working with you guys, okay? And each month we'll be working on one of those elements. And Palmer will be working on the physical elements so that you're taking care of everything. One more element in my area, the element of the psychosocial, so let's call it all the mental factors, internal factors, is it's not the experience, it's not the traumatic event that is important, because every single one of us has things that happen to us as kids. It's impossible to not go through life with stuff happening. But what is important is what beliefs were created and behaviors because of those experiences. What did you decide about life? It's not okay to be mean. Decide about life, I'm not allowed to say no. Decide about life, I have to make you happy. That's my, et cetera, et cetera. It's that which we need to work on. And that's the key elements, which is creating an internal stress within your body. It's always vigilant. Am I doing everything that I need to be doing to please everybody else kind of thing? Will create a lot of stress within the body. That's what we're going to be working on. A few years ago, some of you guys were present. A few years ago, I did a study on the effectiveness, it's a long title, the effectiveness of hypnotherapy on multiple sclerosis. In a nutshell, what I did was I first interviewed any other therapists who had been successful with MS, who had clients that were now symptom-free, and I said, what'd you do? And I learned all their techniques. I figured out, how to do it, and then I had my participants, my volunteers, who I worked with to see if I could repeat their same success. When I was doing that research, everyone had different ideas. But after a while, what I realized was kind of what I mentioned before. What is important and what we need to focus on is not trying to remove a symptom. The symptom will go away if we remove the beliefs that are behind it, those painful elements that are driving your body crazy. So when I did the study, I actually mapped out, this is a mind map of MS. These are all the beliefs within the system of MS. So I printed out. So then what I did is once I had a whole bunch of them, then I kind of focused them in areas. Okay, so this is a little easier to manage probably. So what kind of areas? There was a whole group of things about being very self-critical, about holding higher standards for yourself than for anybody else. Think about it. This is childhood stuff. How do you think someone creates a belief like that? When you think of like a scenario in kindergarten that you think, oh, she'll be better than this. Or maybe your parents said, you're a, Johnson.
Stupid kid.
Yeah, or you are a stupid kid, and you're like, oh, I gotta do better, I'm a stupid kid, I'm stupid. And then you swallow it there, and you're 50, 60, and you're still calling yourself a stupid kid, right? You just swallowed it whole. That's what kids do. Okay, I think something's clicking. Like it's just like, oh, that's where that's coming from. Okay, other things like, I must be perfect everywhere all the time. That one, actually, one of my clients did. He was 4 years old, he was in the school play, he wanted to show Dad his part, and Dad laughed. And he thought, oh, I can never show myself until I get it perfect. Swallowed it whole, and he's been trying to be perfect for the rest of his life. Making himself miserable by doing it, pushing himself so hard, creating so much internal stress because he's trying not to fail. How do you become perfect? By failing a lot of times. Masters require practice. Practice requires tons of failure. So that will drive your body crazy. Other things around compromised personal boundaries. We talked about the relationship thing, right? Not being able to say no. Or if someone else in the room has a bad day, you feel like I can't have a good day. Not if I have a bad day, I should have a bad day. But hell, someone always has a bad day, so then what? Right? You can't have 10 people in the room having a good day and then you give yourself permission to have a good day. Right? And so there's things there that we're going to work on. Disconnected with the body. A lot of us have that. Society doesn't tell us, listen when your foot is saying something, or tone down when something hurts. We're like, just go for it, do it, push. I can, show yourself, prove to yourself that you're capable, right? And your body's like, what is this, right? Now, another one we'll be working on is social expectations about multiple sclerosis. It's what we will call the nocebo. Has anybody heard of placebo? Mm-hmm. There's the opposite called nocebo. Nocebo. So when the doctor says you'll be in a wheelchair in 10 years, is a nocebo. He's not saying, you'll probably kick this. You just, get the tools that you need, work on what is in your responsibility that you can do, and you'll probably totally control your symptoms. You're not told that. You're not supposed to be told that. You're supposed to be told worst case scenario. But you're not told that's the worst case scenario. You're just told this is probably what will happen. And then that becomes a nocebo. Someone's told that. Are they going to make an effort? No. So we'll be working on the day of the diagnosis. Okay. And what society expects. How are you doing? Are you, so you were bad yesterday, are you getting worse? Those are the expectations, all right? And another thing will also be internal conflicts. This will be about things, again, don't get overwhelmed, there's a lot of little parts we're going to be working on this. Breathe.
There's no way I'm going to remember all of that.
Breathe. Now, internal conflicts is like, this is why I think, personally, why more women have MS than men is there's a huge conflict now because you want to be as good as a mom as your mom or your grandma, and at the same time, you want to be a professional and as good as the guys in the department. And what happens there? Your child is sick, I should be there. I should be at the meeting because this is the, but I should be, so we beat ourselves up because we're trying to play so many roles and be good at every single role. Something that our moms or grandmothers didn't have that conflict. They got to be one great mom, let's say.
Relapsing remitting, is like you said, is very heavily female. Chronic progressive is heavily male. And they're not even totally sure they're the same disease or something, but it happens like that.
So those would be things to look at and see.
Yes.
What is going on. But if things, for example, why do you think a woman who just got pregnant, her MS symptoms go away until the child is about 2? How is those inner conflict? Does she have them so much? Or is she like, this is my thing for the next 2 years? Right? So this is our roadmap, okay? We're going to take those things I mentioned and we're going to transform them. So you can have healthy boundaries so that you treat yourself equally to how you treat others and as nicely to yourself as you treat others so that you're able to say no. So that if you have a good day, you have a good day because you had a great whatever. And if someone didn't have a great day, you'll be there for them, but you're still going to have a good day, kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to be working on gaining those tools and those coping mechanisms so that your body is stable within itself rather than being pushed by what everybody else says you should be doing or all these internal shoulda, coulda, okay, and regrets. So that's our roadmap. So the first one we're going to work on today is the belief I should be doing something. Who has that belief? I should be doing something. I can't just be sitting here. I can't just be watching the birds. I should be doing something right now. Well, there's a great saying in Kyoto that says, don't just do something. Sit there. And so what I'm going to propose right now is while you guys sit there, I'm going to do a little meditation that I'll record, and whoever signs up on the little thingy, I'll send you guys the meditation so you can actually listen to it daily. And please give you guys 15 minutes of just sitting there. Okay? Because your body heals not when you're doing something. It heals when you're not. When every other system is off, then it has the chance to renew and replenish. And if you want to heal, you need to give your body those moments of time. Okay? So get comfy as much as you can within a chair. And I designed a little, because we're in Santa Cruz on the beach, I designed a little relaxation. The ocean and sand. So just take a moment to get comfortable. Begin by feeling your breathing. Breathing is a calming guide inwards. So follow the breathing down into your lungs and accompany it back in its return. Feel now as it enters through your nose, into your throat, and your chest. As you do, you might notice as it goes in how it tends to rub when it enters, and then notice how it exits softly. And now this is going to require even more inner focus. More inner focus. See if you can feel its coolness as it enters. And then its warmth as it exits. connect the air with your mind and your body. So in the next inhale, make a fist with your hands. Just curl your fingers. And in the exhale, relax them. That's it. And do this focusing on curling your fingers, making a fist in the inhale, and then relaxing in the exhale 3 times. This is the relationship you have to create relaxation in your body. Using your breath to exhale and release the muscles, the tension, and anything else you're holding in your body. So let us expand that relaxation. And as you exhale, use the guidance of your mind and relax your right arm. And then relax it even more in the next exhale. And then your left arm. And then both arms more and more relaxed. Now relaxing both legs. That's it. And now even more relaxed. Relaxing the small muscles of your eyelids. Relaxing your jaw. Relaxing your neck and shoulders. Just with the use of your mind and your breath. More and more relaxed. And now the muscles of your back from the very top of your neck, just roll that relaxation with your exhale down, down your back. And the next exhale even further down, all the way into your pelvis and buttocks. And the next exhale, loosen your vertebrae as if it were a chain that you're loosening. Now relaxing your abdomen muscles, your chest muscles. With each breath out, releasing more and more. And as you listen to my voice, as your body continues to relax with each exhale, I want you to imagine yourself now lying back comfortably relaxed on the beach. And it's a beautiful day, and there's soft belly clouds and a gentle sea breeze that you can sense on your skin. And sense and feel and imagine in your mind's eye just lying back on a nice soft towel there, supported by the warm sand below. And feel it supporting the back of your head, supporting your shoulder blades, your buttocks, your calves, even the heels of your feet. And as you're lying back, hear the ocean waves sliding up the shoreline and then returning to the sea once again. As you notice that rhythmic ebbing and flowing of the sea, the constant pulsating of back and forth, up and down. And just as the sea, notice too how your heart pumps blood back and forth and up and down through your body. And just as the sea carries so many things from so far away and deposits them on the shore, Your blood does the same thing, carrying oxygen and nutrients and taking them to where they're needed, as well as taking away all the debris and old cells. And even as you're aware of this and of your breathing, you also realize that your body is mostly made up of water, and that the 96 elements of the seawater are the same 96 elements in your blood, in your body. And that in many ways you and the sea are one. As it pulses, it ebbs and flows rhythmically, transporting, depositing, removing, changing the shoreline every day. So too you are forever letting go, changing softly, reshaping. Your own shoreline removes and renews each day. Your own body renews its cells, so much so that 98% of your cells are renewed each year. Each year you have a totally new body, removing old cells and replacing them with new, vibrant cells. And knowing that as you take the time to lie here on the beach, your cells are receiving the oxygen and the nutrients to do their job properly and to repair and replace the cells that are needed so that you can live a vibrant life, a full life, a life designed by you and for you. And so now imagine yourself slowly being lifted up by the sea breeze and gently carried to the ocean. And feel the water lapping over your back and your buttocks, over your calves as you float gently and easily on the ocean, held safely by the sea around you. Feel the deep relaxation in your spine as its burden is forever carried away by the ocean now, as it cools your back, cleanses your body, and refreshes and embraces you. Experience the ocean all around you, supporting you, cleansing, becoming one with the ocean, vibrating and pulsating with you as you and the sea are one now. And feel as if an undulating movement now is running slowly, gently up and down your spinal cord, stimulating your senses comfortably, refreshing and relaxing your nerves, opening the channels there. And as it does, sense and feel the water pulling from your cells as it does to the shoreline, pulling from your cells the fatigue, the achiness, pulling from your cells the restlessness. Feel it pull from your cells the old stories, the regrets, the shame, the black thoughts. Feel it pull from your cells the heaviness, the hardness. And as it does, it replaces those with inner strength, washes you over with balance and grace, reconnecting you, to your original blueprint, to your original being. Allow this to happen while I'm silent for a moment, removing and replacing violence. Removing and replacing. And each time you come here, you'll release more and more. Renew and replenish and become stronger and stronger. The greater and greater sense of you. And so in a moment, the sea will gently return you to the shore. Feel it carrying you there. And then once again, the breeze will gently carry you to your tower. Completely renewed, transformed, lighter, filled with inner peace and comfort from the inside out. And you will sense small adjustments in the next few days that will indicate to you that this transformation is taking place. And because of this, you feel more confident, more willing to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to heal your body, to heal your life, and to fully embrace a healthy you. And because of this, you find yourself unfazed by what's happening outside of you, undisturbed in any way by surface matters. And you find yourself being more gentle with yourself as the changes are taking place, and more aware of what your needs and desires are, and motivated to nourish your body with them. And so in a moment you will complete this exercise and awaken, but only if it's daytime and you choose to return to the room. If it is night, you will continue to sleep restfully and restoratively, waking up at the appropriate time, feeling energized, renewed, and inner balanced. And so if it is daytime, returning back into this room gradually as I count from 1 to 5, just taking your time. At the count of 5, you'll be totally back, refreshed and feeling renewed, energized. So 1, bringing this sense of oneness with you permanently. 2, feeling the inner calmness, the inner ebbs and flows that each day gets stronger. 3, feeling the energy now up and down, doing vines up and down your body. 4, making little shifts now, little movements in your body as you begin to return now. 5, back into this room. If it's daytime, returning completely awake, refreshed, and recharged. Welcome back. So I will complete my part. Leave you guys nice and relaxed. Relaxed is actually the best way to learn. Even more than to be very attentive. So now that you are relaxed, you will absorb everything. Palmer says. Alrighty. Any questions before we move on to the physical? Or observations? How was that?
I was afraid I was going to fall asleep. But I didn't.
Well, if you did, that means your body needs it.
But I didn't because I woke up and it's like, I don't know, I fall asleep out of my chair. I thought passed through my mind a minute.
That
I
was
was seeing
beautiful.
very
Thank
nice
you.
color.
Yes.
Blue, the blue color was with me. Very nice,
Nice.
relaxing.
Good.
That was beautiful, thank you.
Yeah. How did you decide to become involved with MS?
I was studying hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming in NLP. And during our studies, we were given this great little technique that is called allergy relief. Well, the allergy process, that was it, blanket, the allergy process. And it's cute, it's interesting. You pay someone to actually walk themselves out of an allergy. It takes about 30 minutes. I was removing allergies of people who had been allergic for 35 years, who were using inhalers, who couldn't be even in a movie theater if there was someone with cat hairs on their jackets. So when that happened, I was like, oh, that's a pretty powerful technique considering how many people are allergic for all their lives. And so I thought, that's an immune thing. That's an overreaction of the immune system. And I thought, what other disease is there, the immune system is involved, because we've got to be able to make just as many changes as we can with allergies. Interesting enough, allergies a lot of times is the immune system decided that when you're very stressed and someone yells at you, all of a sudden it decided that, whatever was happening at that moment what's at fault. I'd have people become allergic right after a divorce because she kept the cats. And all of a sudden the body decided cats equals divorce equals don't get anywhere close to a cat or you'll have to deal with divorce again. So when that happened, I started thinking, wow, what else can we do? And so I started researching, maybe I can do lupus. I don't know very many people with lupus, maybe I can do arthritis. And then I just got the, hey, try MS on your shock. And I thought, I don't know, MS and, autoimmune disorder? I wasn't really sure. And so I investigated, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Because if we can make the same shift as an allergy, it's very visible within us. We don't need a doctor who would take a blood test to say, hey, yeah, your immune system is holding out. You can see it, you can feel it on a daily basis. So that's when I decided to go with MS. And so I started reviewing, and all the research was only on pain management or stress relief. And I thought, no, if we can remove an allergy, there's a lot more we can do than just pain management. And so I started interviewing real people, real therapists that had done it. And then I had a lot of different techniques, a lot of things to try out. And then I got here in the Santa Cruz, Monterey community, 24 volunteers that worked with me. And 15 of those worked with me for 9 whole months.
I saw the email that came and I went, wish I had thought differently.
It's new, and that's a little bit why I'm also doing these presentations, is so people realize, a lot of times when I talk about my work, I'm like, what does that have to do with disease? That's a mind thing. Well, actually, if you're internally stable here, this gets internally stable. If you're like, your body's like, ready to pop. So that's fine.
After that lovely, lovely guided visualization, boy, I think every single time I give a talk, I'm going to start with a little relaxation. That was just perfect. I love it. So I've introduced myself before. My name is Palmer Kippola. I'm a functional medicine health coach candidate, and I found a website called healingisfreedom.com. healingisfreedom.com as a site for people who are seeking healing from autoimmune conditions. So it's my mission to inspire, to educate, motivate, and empower people who want to heal or prevent autoimmune conditions. So today, I'd like to speak to you in 3 parts. The first is I'd like to share an overview of my own healing journey from MS. The second part is what I've learned to help other people. And lastly, I want to talk about an exercise that I'll invite us to consider as something that you might do to complement your own healing journey. So let's begin. So the year's 1984. Take a little trip back in time with me. I'm 19 years old. I just finished my freshman year of college. I'm home for the summer, living in Santa Monica, and I'm hostessing at a seafood restaurant that summer. And one July morning, I wake up and the bottoms of my feet are all tingly. You know, the feeling like when you've slept on a limb and you can't get the blood back no matter how hard you shake. It was like that. And so I went to work, and by the time I got to work, the tingling was up to my calves and it kept going up. And I was freaked out. So I called my parents, who called our family doctor, who said, I want you to take her to the neurologist at UCLA today. So that's what they did. And a couple hours later, we were sitting in the neurologist's office, and she did a very cursory exam. She looked me up and down. She had me do the heel toe walk, tested a few reflexes, and with a spectacular lack of sensitivity, after about 10 minutes, pronounced, I'm 99% certain that you have MS, multiple sclerosis. Multiple what? We had no idea what this thing was. There was no internet. People didn't talk about this. Never heard of this thing before. She said, if I'm right, there's nothing you can do. We'll schedule an NMR, which is the scary precursor name to the MRI. It stands for Nuclear Magnetic Resonance Image. Nuclear Magnetic Resonance. So we'll schedule one of those, but there's nothing you can do. So we left her office with very little information and even less hope. This was terrifying. By that night, the tingling had crept all the way up to my neck. And by the time I went to sleep, my mom was holding me and she was crying. And I was crying harder because all of the parts that were tingling had gone numb. And by the next morning, and for a full 6 weeks, my body stayed enshrouded in numbness. I couldn't feel anything from the neck down. It was a devastating and terrifying time, and we planned for my future in a wheelchair. We didn't know what to expect. And I am so grateful that my parents were rocks, and I'm really grateful that I had friends who came by to visit almost every day, the ones that weren't too scared off by this mysterious disease. And some people brought me gifts. One person taught me how to knit, somebody brought cookies, somebody would bring a book. But this one particular friend brought me a gift that didn't look like a gift at all, because it was in the form of a question. And that question would become the guiding light for the next 30 years of my life, and that was, Palmer, why do you think you got the MS? What do you mean, why do I think I got the MS? How dare you insinuate that I might have created this? Well, wait a minute. Did I bring this on? Is there something that I did? So I lay on the couch, as I did every day for 6 weeks, pondering and puzzling this question. How did I bring this into my life, or did I? And it occurred to me in a flash. For that, I have to go back farther in time, because I was adopted as a baby. I was 3 days old. And my parents were very loving. They brought me into their home and arms, very warm and welcome. But my dad had been a fighter pilot in the Korean War, and he had particular views about the way things should be. His way was the right way, invariably. And my mom struggled with her weight for my whole life, and he didn't like that very much. And he would often yell at her about that. And my very earliest memory is of me about age 3. My dad is yelling at my mom, who's locked herself in their bedroom. She's crying. My dad is yelling at her about her weight. And I'm standing up to my dad in the hallway, 3 years old, with my dukes up. You stop calling my mom names or I'll make you. All right? Little child warrior. That's me. Hyper vigilant, hyper defensive child, always on the lookout for my mom. Nobody's going to mess with my mom. I'm ready for a fight if you call her names. And I viewed my immune system as a proxy for that mental hypervigilance. I was always on, The stress response, as Ava talked about, if you are stressed out and in fight flight, you are not relaxing. And if you're not relaxing, your body has the wear and tear. So I viewed my immune system as the proxy for my personality, my mental state. And so my initial hypothesis of why I got the MS was chronic stress. And that still rings true for me today, even though I know there's more of the story. So by the end of 6 weeks, the numbness began to retreat, very thankfully in time for me to go back to college. But it would be a 26-year course of relapsing remitting MS before I was able to connect the dots a little bit further. And over the course of those 26 years, I saw about a half dozen neurologists, each of whom told me there's nothing you can do, except of course take the medication. And I said, well, wait a minute, what do you mean there's nothing I can do? What about evening primrose oil? What about fish oil, omega-3 supplements? Palmer, there's no research. There's not enough research on this stuff. So the best thing you can do is stop smoking, don't drink, and that's about it. Well, I never smoked. I didn't drink very much, so that wasn't very helpful. But still, I knew in my heart that there was something that I could do to help myself. And since I had intuited that chronic stress was at the root of my MS, then I was going to need to address that head on. And so that's what I spent the majority of the next 26 years doing. So I started doing yoga in 1987, and boy, was that great, because when that instructor told me that I could just let it go and leave things on the mat, that's what I did. So I started doing yoga in the 80s, and then in the 90s I learned how to meditate. And I found that when I did these practices, whether it was the yoga or the meditation or both, I would actually have fewer exacerbations. And conversely, when I was stressed out, whether it was conflict at home with my dad doing this, or I was at school and I had exams and I was stressed out, or by the time I got into the workforce and I was just overwhelmed with all the stuff I had to do, I would feel more exacerbations. And they would last longer and they would be more intense. So relaxation helped as long as I did it, and stress created more issues in my body. So that helped to a degree, but I also knew there might be more that I could do. I just needed to figure out what it was. So I thought, well, maybe nutrition. What can I do there? Well, remember, this is 1984. There's no internet, so I can't sit and do a Google search. I have to go to the library and get books, and I found 2 books. One was Phyllis Balch's Prescription for Nutritional Healing. It's about this thick. One was the Swank MS Diet book, both of which advocated a low-fat vegetarian diet. So I thought, I'll give it a try. Sounds pretty good to me. And what I have to tell you prior to this is, for as long as I can remember, I had tummy trouble after eating. And I had no idea why, and I thought everybody experienced the same thing. So when I adopted this low-fat vegetarian diet and I took out meat, I took out fish, I went vegan for a while, I added more whole grains in, and I noticed my tummy troubles got a little worse. So not only did I experience the same amount of MS symptoms with the diet, they actually got a little bit worse with this vegetarian diet. I'm going to have to try something else. Well, fast forward to 2010, just 7 years ago, and I thought, you know what, maybe I ought to be seeing a nutritionist for this tummy stuff, because now that we do have an internet and I can educate myself a little bit more, maybe there's something going on here. So I found a nutritionist who ran a number of tests for me. Come to find out that I had a sensitivity to gluten. Not celiac disease, but non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So this nutritionist was a functional medicine nutritionist, which means she helped me get to the root cause of my problems. And she educated me about the perils of gluten, had me remove it from my diet. Let's give it a try for 30 days. And she educated me about healing my gut. So she took me on a 30-day journey to do a gut healing program while I stepped away from the gluten and other inflammatory foods. Within a week of removing this gluten, I stopped having digestive trouble. Period. Even more notable than that, by the end of the month, I stopped having any and all MS symptoms ever again.
All what?
MS symptoms ever again. Now, my story may not be the usual story, right? Everybody's root causes may vary. We do have some patterns, and that's what I want to talk with you about today. But for me, the holy grail of my recovery was eliminating gluten. I learned a lot more than that. We're going to walk through what some of those things are, but I want to share with you what I know. So back to the big question. How did I heal? How do I think I got the MS? Have you ever heard of the concept of the total body burden? Do you know what that is? I see some yeses, some nos. The total body burden, imagine your body is a big bucket and you hold a certain amount of toxins. Babies are born on average with 287 chemicals in their cord blood before they even hit the ground today. So as adults, we have levels of toxins that build up in our body. Well, we know that genetics plays a small role in whether or not we get a chronic condition like autoimmune, like MS. But for me, those things included multiple vaccines beyond what you get as a child. My parents were travel writers, so I went through every vaccine known to man. Many courses of antibiotics. I had mercury fillings because I was addicted to sugar. I had a sensitivity to cow dairy. I found out later, and the list goes on. Chronic stress being at the top. Gluten, there we go. And once you have these inflammatory factors in your body, this big bucket, at some point it goes tilt. And that's what the leaky gut is that allows the protein particles to get into your bloodstream, that triggers your immune system to start attacking the gluten, the dairy, and oh, by the way, your thyroid molecules or your myelin sheath may look kind of like that gluten molecule, and so that's what the molecular mimicry is. Or your own body tissues get caught in the crossfire, friendly fire of autoimmune. So, how did I heal? By emptying my toxin bucket. So what do you have to do? You have to identify what your personal toxins are. And so, there we go. We removed the mercury fillings. I corrected any nutrient deficiencies I had. I added in healthy fats. I eliminated sugar and starchy carbs. I removed that cow dairy. I reduced my stress. I removed gluten. And I healed and sealed my leaky gut. And what did this mean? This means that I modified my genetic expression. Now, I'll always have the genes for MS. I didn't do anything with those genes, but I modified how those genes get expressed. So,
Can I ask you a question?
please.
Mercury fillings, if there was like CNN had a big thing about fixed it, and so all kinds of people went and pulled the teeth. I know half a dozen people that did it. Did nothing except causing a lot of pain and expense.
So, comment on removing mercury. If you're going to do it, make sure that everything else is functioning really well, like your digestion and your elimination pathways, because when you pull mercury out of your body, there's a potential that you'll have a reaction, because if you don't do it properly, there's a possibility that the mercury can be deposited in your brain, for example. So to do it properly, you need to see a holistic dentist that knows what they're doing. And I've had stories of people that just heard you need to get rid of your fillings, and they did that, and they didn't do it properly, so they got exposed to a lot more mercury. That's one possibility. Another possibility is it might not have been those people's triggers, their root causes, right? So it may not have made a difference because that wasn't their holy grail. Got it? So I did a lot of things. The things that I'm aware of, that I'm conscious of, that made a big difference for me, were reducing the chronic stress and removing the gluten. And that's been my observation over the last 30 years. So I can speak from my own experience about that. So let's take a look at the before and the after the MS. So between the years 1984 and 2010, I had the signs and symptoms that were consistent with MS. I had the MRIs, I had the neurologist telling me that everything looked consistent with MS, the examinations, I had a blood test showing that I had this gluten sensitivity. We know that's a triggering factor for autoimmune conditions. So all the signs and symptoms of somebody who has MS. Not only that, but in 2014, I found my birth father by accident, a very happy accident, and discovered that he too was diagnosed with MS 25 years ago. So there's the genetic connection for you. I also did the 23andMe genetic test, which shows that I'm 5 times more likely than the average person to get MS. So we have evidence. In the intervening years, oh
What
please.
is the 23andMe?
Oh, 23andMe. 23andme.com is a site for you to find out about your genetic heritage. You can learn your health markers. They don't interpret it for you anymore, but you get the raw data, and there are lots of other companies out there that will interpret that data to see if you have risk factors for something. So it's an important test for that reason. There's also a friends and family tab, which I clicked on and found that I had a first cousin. So did it for a health marker, found a first cousin, and that's how I got to my birth father. But that's a story for another time. 23andMe.
The comment you just gave us, you found your true father and he suffered from MS also?
Yes.
My gosh, I have not heard that before. So MS is not passed down. I was under the impression MS is not passed down from the parents.
It can be, but it's a very small percentage likelihood. So it's not, we'll get to this part. So it is exciting, and now I have this privilege to help him with his MS. So
If somebody else in your family has it, it ups your chances of getting it a little bit,
yes,
not a lot.
that's true.
So,
They've done studies with identical twins and found that you would expect that with identical twins that if one has MS, the other one would too, but that's not how it happens, which tees me up perfectly for the next part of this talk, which is the following. Have you ever heard of the science called epigenetics? Epigenetics? You have. The word literally means above the gene. Epi, above, or on top of the gene. Have you heard of a gentleman by the name of Dr. Bruce Lipton? No. He's a cellular biologist who was a professor at the University of Wisconsin. We have heard of this expression, that your DNA is your destiny, right? Your DNA is your destiny. Whatever your dad had, your grandmother had, well, you're destined to get that too. That's what we believed forever, and that's what Bruce Lipton taught, that to his class, that your DNA is your destiny, period. Well, Bruce was also a researcher, so he came out to Stanford to do some studies, and he took genetically identical cells, and he put them in a petri dish, and he grew them. And then he took those cells and put some in one petri dish, some in another, and some in a third. And for whatever reason, he decided to change the culture medium in the dishes. But he fully expected that each dish would produce the exact same body part because they were genetically identical. But what he found completely surprised him. When he came back to look, he found that in this first petri dish, it was growing muscle tissue.
Mhm.
In the second one, it was growing bone tissue, and the third was fat cells. And this just blew his mind wide open because he fully expected that if they're genetically identical, it will form, the offspring will be genetically identical. What was the only thing that he changed? The environment, the culture medium. So
Is that nature versus nurture?
it's kind of that nature-nurture thing. Let me get this chair out in front of you. But it's the environment, not your genes, that matters most when it comes to your health outcomes. This was huge news. It also comes with huge responsibility, right? Because now the CDC even says that only up to 10% of your health outcomes are due to your mom and dad, your genetics. Only up to 10%, and that may be a lot. It might be closer to 5 or 3%. There's a very small chance that your MS that you can blame on your parents, okay? But the 90% are these environmental factors, and that's what we're going to dig into in the rest of this. But I really want you to see that even the CDC is saying you can't blame your parents. That's big news. So at this point, I quit my day job in 2012. I was an executive in the information technology industry, and I thought, I need to study this. What in the world, how is it possible that I healed from this MS when my neurologists, who are way smarter than me about MS, told me there was nothing I could do? How is this possible? Well, the second research I found after epigenetics was this exciting study that was done by a researcher named Alessio Fasano at Harvard. And he found that there's actually a three-legged stool. It's called a triad or a three-legged stool because there are three parts to it for an autoimmune condition to develop. You have to have three things. The genes, which are at the bottom, right? Tiny little layer there. Environmental factors, big category, we'll talk about that. And a leaky gut, which is the gateway, as you saw on the toxic bucket. That's the gateway to the immune system getting overwhelmed, and that's the progression of autoimmune disease. Now, what is so exciting about finding an equation for this is that if you reverse the equation, you can reverse the condition. By identifying your environmental factors, removing them from your body or your environment, healing and sealing your leaky gut, you can modify your genetic expression. Again, I want to be really clear about this. I will always have the genes for MS. Those of us diagnosed will always have the genes. It doesn't mean that it's a life sentence that we necessarily have to have them expressed. The devil is in the details of figuring out what those environmental factors are. So now that I knew that there's an equation, there's this thing called epigenetics, 90% of it is lifestyle or environmental factors. I needed to figure out what these environmental factors were so that I could help people. So I delved back into the research and I spent a couple of years looking at what are, in fact, at the root of these autoimmune conditions and what can people do to heal. I also need to say that I'm writing a book currently about recovering from autoimmune conditions. And this is where, after doing a bunch of research and getting let's call it a straw man of these root causes, I wrote them all down and I felt confident enough at this point to interview people, pick up the phone and call functional medicine doctors, scientists, people saying, I am seeking truth about autoimmune conditions, can you help me? I've got this hypothetical list of triggers or root causes, can you take a look at it, can you help me? Can you poke holes in it? And people said yes. So I went around the country having meetings with people, having them examine what I put together, and they said, this is it. And it came down to 6 big categories. And because I want to make it easy for people to remember, I figured I wanted to come up with an acronym, a mnemonic, so that you could remember it, right?
Yeah.
And I am also a word person, so sitting in my office, I actually found that they spelled the word FIGHTS, which stands for food, infections, gut health, hormone balance, toxins, and stress. And these are not little categories. They're each big. So when I asked each of these people who's going to be in my book, how did you heal? And then I asked these people, what do you do with other people who come to you seeking healing? And every single person said, start with food. So I asked them, well, that's a really big category. What do you recommend? Well, the gold standard to figure out if food is blocking your healing with the root cause of your MS is to do an elimination diet, a strict elimination diet. You ever heard of that? You've heard of it, okay. Where you take out the toxic or suspect foods for about 30 days or longer, you add them back in slowly and one at a time, and you monitor yourself to see how you're responding to these foods. So what are the benefits of doing an elimination diet? A lot of good things. So if food is in fact at the root of your autoimmune condition, it means that it's creating inflammation in your body, and inflammation is the root cause of every chronic disease that we're aware of. So you have an inflammatory response going on. I had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on whole wheat bread every day of my life growing up as a child. I had pizza, pasta, and when I got older, beer, and probably a steady stream of gluten every day. gluten causes intestinal permeability in everyone, not just people who are genetically susceptible to autoimmune conditions, but everyone. It's a really difficult to digest molecule. It's kind of like hair, which sounds terrible, but that's what it's like. So you take away the suspect and toxic foods for enough period of time, and this is really where the tough love of my talk comes in, because I'm going to flash a slide that's going to show you all the foods that you should consider removing for about a month. And you might find that some of these foods are things that you eat every day and you love them, because food is not just fuel, right? It's information, it's love, it's comfort, it's security. So this is where you kind of got to dig deep and realize that, you know, maybe there's a future that's out here somewhere ahead of me where I have more freedom from the symptoms that I'm experiencing, and maybe, just maybe, I can do something for 30 days. So let me show you what they said the top foods were. Here are the top autoimmune trigger foods: gluten, dairy, eggs, sugar, and processed foods are really at the top of the list. And I really want you to understand that not everybody in this room is reacting to all of these foods. I'm not. There's a lot of things out here that I can eat with no problem. But for 30 days, this is one of the best, if not the best, experiment that you can do to see if, in fact, food is the root of your healing. And when I ask these practitioners, what percentage of your patient's symptoms, the numbness, the tingling, fatigue, extreme pain, blah, 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 goes away when they remove these foods, they said anywhere between 60 and 100%. The average person told me about 80% of the symptoms can go away. This is not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. This is one category called food, and it's a percentage within that category. It happened to be a really big deal for me, but isn't it worth it for 30 days to give it a try? So people often say, well, what in the world can I eat? And I have to say that there's loads of nourishing food that you can eat. The mainstays being healthy proteins, the grass-fed wild variety of fish, meat, and chicken, and ample vegetables. That's really the mainstay of this particular approach for 30 days, with the exception of nightshades, which are tomatoes, white potatoes, eggplants, and peppers. Especially if you have chronic pain, you want to make sure that you take those out for 30 days.
On the meat thing, I learned a long time ago that the only thing that was absolutely certain that people hurt MS was saturated fat. So I cut out red meat 25 years ago.
I did that for a period of time too, and I came to find out that that wasn't true for me, and in the literature and research that I found. Dr. David Perlmutter is a neurologist that you may be familiar with, who wrote Brain, and he and many other experts are advocates of something called a ketogenic diet, which is actually very high or higher in saturated fat, less so in the vegetable oil categories. But you may want to think about adding some of that back in and just seeing it as an experiment. Does it actually help? Just an experiment. So this is an invitation to maybe put your lab coat on and give it a try for 30 days. Now, I don't like the word elimination diet, because the word eliminate, it sounds really scary to take things away, and diet, who wants to go on another diet? They don't typically work. The root word of diet is die, doesn't sound very pleasant. So I call it a 30-day food vacation, because you actually get to take a vacation from these toxic foods, and hopefully a vacation from your symptoms too. There are success factors to making this a successful experiment for you. And one of them is to plan ahead. You don't want to be going on vacation when you start something like this. Mexico sounds great, but not a good time to start a 30-day food vacation. You really ideally want to do this with a friend, a buddy, somebody at home who lives with you. You don't want them to be eating pizza. You can't, and that's not very fun. So finding a buddy, maybe even in this group, as a consideration for something like this. Other secrets to success: get recipes in advance. The Autoimmune Paleo Protocol, don't know if you've heard of it, AIP for short, is something you can Google. There's like 500,000 recipes when you do a search for autoimmune protocol recipes. That most closely matches this particular phase. Remember, it's only 30 days. I want to leave this quote up here because thank you, I adore this quote. And it says, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed that is not faced." And there are a couple of good books out there. I mentioned the Walls Protocol, which is Terry Wall's book. There's also a fairly new book called The Whole 30. The Whole 30, have you heard of this? It's another good one that can walk you through on a step-by-step basis an elimination diet. The only difference between what I'm recommending with the slides, which you'll get from today, is eggs, because Dr. Walls and other practitioners have issues, in particular with egg whites. You'll notice that most of those foods are proteins. So people are responding to gluten, to cow dairy, to egg whites, to almonds. Those are all protein molecules that the body has difficulty with. More specifically, the immune system has trouble with. So in any event, that's why eggs are on this list. If you have autoimmune issues, give it a try for 30 days to see if you feel better. And certainly if you have chronic pain, then you really want to consider those nightshades. Those are the tomatoes, the white potatoes. Say that
A
again.
whole bunch
We
of
just
my
planted
I
today.
know.
I didn't ever wear a nightshade.
Just for 30 days.
I know. I have salsa every day.
See, so the things that you eat every day are something to just consider. I mean, this is why food sensitivities develop, and I went to the experts and asked them, why does this happen?
Yeah.
The stuff that we eat every day is the stuff that we become sensitive to. You know, we don't all need to go through that level of suffering. Of course, it's optional, but now that we know and the research is there that shows, you know, that there's this thing, leaky gut, hyperintestinal permeability is real. It's not a made-up thing. It's really real. There's research out of Harvard that confirms this. That, boy, if we just identify what our own triggers are, take them out, heal up that gut, and the devil's in the details. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm just trying to help simplify it by putting the most usual suspects on that list for you to consider. But again, you know, one person's root causes are not somebody else's, so I want to be really, really clear, and I'll say it for the third time. My experience of removing the gluten and addressing chronic stress is not everybody else's experience. I don't promise anything. I'm just sharing the information and the science that I've learned, which is so exciting that I feel like I need to stand on the rooftops and share it with everybody, because there's so much that you can do, and how dare anybody ever tell you there's nothing you can do, because that is the most dismissive, untrue thing that somebody can say, especially that now we know so much.